All right, there's something that Trump does and that Buddha does that Democrats need to learn from, okay? And it's one of our biggest weaknesses. We've got a lot of weaknesses, folks. We lost to the fascist guy, you know, losing by 51% margin. It's like, that's bad. Losing by 10% margin is already cataclysm. The fact that this motherfucker had anyone in the country vote for him means that there's not one or two things we need to reflect on. There's like 10,000. We need to figure this shit out, okay? And one of the things that Democrats fail at is this that I'm gonna go through right now. So what does Buddha do when he wants to communicate something to his disciples? What do the Taoists do? If you think of the wisest person you know, do they sit down and intellectually explain da 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 da? Or do they give you a proverb or a story or some kind of wisdom, right? If you think of wisdom, it's usually in the form of a Tao, of a one hand clapping, of a tree falling in a forest that forces someone to think about, that forces someone to engage with, that forces someone to internalize, right? If you teach a man to fish, he can eat for a lifetime, right? Like, it forces someone. You can't hear that sentence, work through the meaning of it, and then not agree with it. It's impossible. You can't do it, right? You're not making an argument. You're sort of presenting a riddle, and when they solve the riddle, they must know the answer to the argument. It is impossible for them not to, and also have the riddle solved, right? That's Buddha's way of communicating wisdom. Trump's way is similar. He's not as good at it as Buddha, but what he does is he goes on stage and he's like, folks, we're going to do a 10% tariff. We're going to take 10% of all of China's money, and we're going to get all the manufacturing jobs. And he doesn't explain any of that because he doesn't know what it is or what it means. He's kind of like an oracle that his people are forced to decipher. They're forced to engage with. They sit there and they hear Donald Trump talk about tariffs that they've probably never heard of before, that talk about taking 10% of all the money that gets traded between U.S. and China, and they're like, how could we do something like that? It's intriguing. It's an interesting question. What is tariffs? What does that mean? Why hasn't anyone done this? Have we done this in the past? It instantly opens a ton of interesting questions, because this was not part of the political conversation before the Trump-Kamala debate, where he just randomly said he's going to put 10% tariffs on the entire country, on every country in the world. Which he did, and then he did 1,000 times worse. And also, everyone said it was a joke when he said it on stage, but then he did it, and now that's like, if we could have 10% tariffs on every country, that would be like the holy grail of economics now, because we're fucking turbo tariffing the Marshall Islands. But anyway, so he says shit on stage. He doesn't elaborate because he doesn't know, right? Donald Trump doesn't know what a tariff is. He doesn't know who pays it. He doesn't know. He just thinks it's where we take China's money, right? They trade with us, and we just take some of the money. Is like his understanding, probably. He doesn't know what a trade deficit is, by the way. He thinks trade deficit is when Canada steals our money or something. He just doesn't know. He just has no idea. So the effect of this is that if you have even 1% trust, most Democrats, they look at that, okay, this guy's retarded, whatever. A Republican who has even 1% trust in this man, like, this is a world leader, he must know something about what he's talking about. There must be something in here that's true. They're forced to engage with, they're forced to learn, they're forced to figure out these answers. They're going to hear it from their media people. This question is going to linger in the zeitgeist, and attempts to answer it from the media figures, from their pundits, are going to spring up all over the place and take control of the narrative again, because Donald Trump always has narrative control. Something else that we struggle with that I'll touch on in a future video. But yeah, we need to stop worrying so much about over-explaining and focus more on being entertaining, being approachable and affable, and then throw in some policy breadcrumbs and just chill, let them sit, let them linger. Just be like, yeah, like, I don't answer sophisticated policy questions in 1 minute. It's not something that traditionally works, but I'll give you the headline is like, listen, if we do this, then 30% of American parents will be able to spend more time with their kids. They'll be able to afford childcare better. Like, that's going to be the result of the policy. If you want to figure it out, figure it out. If you don't believe me, then don't believe me, right? Leave it on the table and let people figure it out. Let people internalize it. Just state the positive result and let it speak for itself. We're going to take 10% of China's money, right? That's the equivalent, right? But we're lacking in media. The media isn't going to be there for us as well as the Republican media is, because they are in lockstep. They're so good at their job. But we're starting to get there. And this is one of the ways that it's a flywheel, right? Is we give them something to talk about. We give them something to shape the narrative with. We give them a question to answer. So that'll be that for this video. I wish I had a more concrete example. I should have shared one of, Biden sitting on stage during the debate that ended his career, basically, and trying desperately to come up with more specific figures and more specific things and trying to explain things in more detail. Like, not only is it harder, but it's worse and harder, even if you execute on it well. And it's easier to execute on poorly. It's easier to lose the audience. It's very hard to explain to 300 million people sophisticated policy, right? It's not something you do in a 1-minute debate question answer. It's not something you do in a 3-minute, interview slot. So yeah, hopefully there's something to learn from this. And good luck to our loyal Democrats who are trying their best, okay?